Hi there, Glocal citizens. Welcome back to the podcast that inspires a borderless mindset around manifesting a new world. I am your host, Florence Adu, coming to you from Brooklyn again. Yeah, I can be a little silly sometimes. It's a wonderful prelude to the weekend. It's a Friday. It's quite cold and chilly, and you all know how I feel about winter. But, we're just taking it in stride because we are in the midst of Black History Month, where we all just love to shine. And I think my guest, which is the part 2 of our part 1 on Black Mixcellence, is joining me. I'm so excited. In part 1 of our conversation, I spoke with Tamika Hall, who is a freelance writer, content strategy manager, and a mom who is New York born and bred, but now is based in Jersey City. She came to work and collaborate with my now guest, who has worked with numerous spirit brands, celebrity chefs, cocktail bars, and industry experts across the globe. He starred in The Cocktail Kings on Discovery Channel, where he traveled around the world creating bespoke cocktails to reflect their destinations. In his current role, he oversees fostering brand advocacy for the Bacardi USA Brand Portfolio. His expertise and spirits knowledge has been featured in Imbibe, Complex, Wall Street Journal, Time, and Cocktail Lovers magazine, to name a few. So together, they have co-authored Black Mixcellence, a comprehensive guide to Black mixology as a tribute to the contribution of Black and Brown mixologists to the spirits and mixology industries. Colin Asare-Appiah, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, now that was an introduction. Thank you so much for having me on Global Citizen. About time too. It's great being here, and I've been looking forward to this session for a while now, and thank you for making this happen. And as it's Black History Month, I think there's an opportune moment for me to get involved and be here with you. So thank you.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So let's jump right in, and let's start with, where are you from? Where are you local? And what is your craft?
Wow. Now, you ready?
Yes.
I am from Ghana. I was born and raised in Ghana, in Kumasi and Bifoso in Ghana. And from there, I moved to London at the age of 7. And I had my secondary socialization in sunny London town, hence the accent, because otherwise I'll be speaking like this. Hey, Charlie. I can when I need to. And then from there, I moved here to New York. I was dragged here kicking and screaming by my wife, Louisa, who refused to move back to London, where she's from. So I followed her. I mean, the things we do for love, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm based out of New York for the foreseeable future anyway.
And what is your craft?
Well, I always say that my role doesn't necessarily dictate who I am. I am a community builder, and I use my talents that I've gained through my life experience to ensure that I build community. The work I do on a day-to-day basis is I'm the director for multicultural and LGBTQ plus advocacy for Bacardi brands. And we ensure that we intentionally turn up in the industry in the right way, because representation matters, and we need to make sure that there's enough Black, brown and queer faces in the organization who can talk to their communities and who represent their communities who is also excellent at their jobs. So yeah, that's us.
Okay. So how does a small boy from Ghana make it into the spirits world? So, tell us about the journey of really kind of embracing, just friends, just background. Of course, Colin is from Ghana, and we are fellow country women and men. Yeah. And so we've met here in New York, and just kind of many, many years of growing up together, seeing family come together and all those things. So, you came to New York as someone who, you had to navigate immigration, number one, and then, again, establish yourself. So how does a young boy from Ghana become a man that is a spirits expert?
The foundation is always family, right? In our community, we were lucky enough to be surrounded by fellow Ghanaians growing up in London, and as immigrants or as I like to say, expats in another country, because when the Brits move, they're called expats.
Sure, exactly.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, as an expat in London, it was nice to have fellow Ghanaians around who we leaned on for support. Education was a big part of my parents' mantra into how one develops. So, of course, it's always pushed in our household. So basically went and got all the papers that I needed to say that, yes, I'm a qualified global citizen with my degrees and so on and so forth. And then after I finished college, I went to Greece to find myself, as I told my dad. He didn't understand what that
He
meant.
didn't.
I mean, he really did not. I went and did my eat, pray, love moment, and I ran out of money, I think, in the first couple of weeks. So I called him back. I asked him for some more money. He said, no, figure it out. And I figured it out. I found a job in a nightclub picking up glasses and picking up glasses and cleaning bathrooms. That's what cleaning up after people. That's all I did for about a month or two. It was interesting.
Yeah.
But I realized that I really love the interaction with people in that environment. And I used to watch the bartenders work, and I realized that, they're creating moments. And I thought, wow, I really want to be able to have that skill. It was further down the line when I was actually working with the Naked Chef, Jamie Oliver. We were talking about how he got into the industry, and he said, well, life was about special moments. And he thought that as a chef, 9 times out of 10, special moments are based around food and drink. And him as a chef could use his skill set to really be part of that special moment. And so, he said, that's what I do behind the bar. And I really agreed with that. Life's about special moments and around food and drink. So just coming back to when I was working in that first bar in Greece, it was an amazing experience. And I remember coming back because I was supposed to have a proper job with McCann Erickson. Came down, turned down the job, and I was like, right, that's it. I'm going to be a bartender. My mum and dad were like, what do you mean you want to be a bartender? What is that? You're going to serve people? But you're educated, though. You had a good job. I said, Dad, you said to me, find something you love doing, you'll never work a day in your life. So I found something I love doing, and I never worked a day in my life. And I really don't feel as if I work a day in my life, I don't view it so much as work as more of a journey.
Yeah.
Because it's so people interactive for me, and that's what I've always liked. So it's always just, I wake up every day looking forward to the adventure of the people that I'm going to meet and where is today going to take us.
So you decide on this career field and it's, work your way up kind of field. So the question is, so you got back to London, you landed. Yeah. And so then you now have an industry to navigate, right? So you have to figure out how do I then make my way in the industry? Because I guess education is great, but achievement is also something that's very much emphasized in our families and our backgrounds. And I guess in most people's backgrounds, but particularly, your family said, oh, you're going to be a bartender. Show us something, right?
Yeah. And the interesting thing about show us something, I have I've had my own TV shows. I've appeared in numerous press. Dad, God bless his soul, still never understood exactly what I did, but it is what it is. It is what it is. All my parents know is that, I'm respected in the industry. People love and appreciate what I try to do and the community I try and build. And they appreciate that, but they don't actually understand what I do on a day-to-day basis. But trying to navigate the industry when I first came in was interesting because England is very different. There was myself and my best friend, Douglas Ancroft, God bless his soul. He passed last year, fellow Ghanaian boy. He created an iconic cocktail called the Porn Star Martini. Which is known all around the world, apart from the US. Obviously, the US are kind of puritanical, right? So they're like, no, you can't call a cocktail that.
Oh, is that the reason? Because I wondered.
You can't write that. Imagine trying to send that recipe to a corporate client. They'll be like, what did that, the firewalls would just cut off the message straight away. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
so
it's true.
It's a problem.
It's true. Yeah.
So anyway, he created an iconic cocktail, and there's not many people that have done that in this world. So hats off to him. But him and I created a training school called the London Academy of Bartending, which then morphed into a bar. But prior to that, he was also, both of us, funny enough, were at college together. He went on to run some bars. I came in as well to run some bars. I started as a bartender and worked my way up. I would say I got lucky because I ended up in a team of people who, at that time, were really focused on the craft of the cocktail. And hospitality. And we were a super creative group. We were young, we were dynamic, we wanted to push the boundaries of the industry. We got a lot of recognition for it. It wasn't easy, obviously. But as a young Black man, I think my cultural diversity allowed me to play with flavor profiles and guest experience in a different way. You know, I'd bring some of my ingredients that I'd have at home, like a lot of the spices and herbs and stuff that we'd use at home and cooking ingredients from my mum's pantry into cocktails, which kind of gave me a little bit of a head start, you know what I mean?
Sure, exactly. yeah. You know,
playing around with things like tamarind, for example. People back then were playing around with tamarind. I'd infuse tamarind with whiskey, use that in like old-fashioned cocktails. Subalo, like hibiscus. People weren't really using that back then. We were using that, you know. So, you know, it gave us a little bit of an edge, which is great because we knew the foundational piece, but then cultural diversity allowed us to think differently and be different.
And so did that morph into the Cocktail Kings?
That then morphed into the Cocktail Kings because Dimitri, who was a dear friend of mine from way back, he ended up, we actually met when the general manager of my bar and the general manager of his bar were great friends. So walked into a bar that he was working in. There's this, I look up, there's this French guy on the bar dancing with his top off, thinking he was all that, you know, doing laybacks and shots and being a man of the house. I was laughing my head off. To this day, I still laugh. We still laugh about it because he says, as he says, I can't climb up on the bar anymore. Yeah, we became great friends, and he ended up actually managing the lab. And from that, him and I set up. We saw a niche in the market for cocktails on wheels, basically cocktails for hire, cocktails for events. So we set up an events company providing bespoke craft cocktails for unique and boutique events, which was amazing.
Genius, right?
Yeah. They're few and far between, even now to this day.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember him and I one day, we were at what was it? It was the BAFTA Awards.
Oh.
We were doing the cocktails for the BAFTA Awards. And we're both, it was big. It was fancy. And we were at the Royal Albert Hall. We were downstairs in the basement of the building. All our bartenders are upstairs mingling with the stars, and we're doing all the prep and all the backup stuff and the juicing and this, that, the other. We're doing all the groundwork because that's what you do as an owner.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
So allowing our bartenders the time to shine. So anyway, both of us are sitting there chopping lemons and peppers and chilies, and then we just started having this discussion about, hey, wouldn't it be a great idea to do a cocktail show where we travel around the world and we use local ingredients, talked about them, talked about how cocktails bring people together and, you know, just showcase our craft. And it was really funny because both of us started laughing. We were like, wow, I wonder how many people sat in this same space talking about these grand ideas about they're going to do this, that, and that. Anyway, it kind of sat with us. We were like, actually, do you know what? Let's just write this down. So we wrote it down wrote the idea down. I think it was on one sheet of paper. It was literally 4 paragraphs on one side of paper. Yeah. And I spoke to my girlfriend, my wife now, Louisa, and she said, oh, I have some friends who work in production. You should go and speak to them. So I said, okay. So we went to go and speak to our friends and her friends. And they said, oh, we have this woman from a production company that you should go and meet. So we're like, sure, okay, why not? I mean, we've got nothing to lose. So the interesting thing about how life works, right? We took her for a drink. We took this woman for a drink in the bar that Douglas Ancra used to run, which is an iconic bar in London.
Townhouse.
No, it wasn't Townhouse at the time. It was the Lab, LAB.
The Lab. Oh, yeah. Okay.
It was the Lab. It was the Lab. But Doug and I opened the Townhouse as well.
Okay.
But then we decided that we decided to sit down. We're having cocktails with her. She said, do you know what? I like you two, but your idea, rip. She literally ripped it up. And said that idea, listen, we'll work on something. We'll treatment something for you guys. So she went away back to her production team. The week later, we were filming a treatment, we were filming a pilot. 10 days after that, they were presenting it to Discovery. By the end of the month, we had a show.
Wow.
It was that quick. And then we were filming maybe we started filming 6 to 8 weeks later.
Wow.
And it was one of the craziest schedules I've ever been on.
I can imagine.
It was planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah.
It was I always say to people, be careful for what you wish for, because it might come true, right? I'll never forget one of our last episodes. We're in Milan. We had lots of pressures with our business at the time. Mm-hmm. And we're both sitting in Milan, just trying to work out how we're going to move forward with our business, with our mobile cocktail business. And we're filming this segments in Milan, sitting in this amazing spaces, just thinking, God, you know what? I would love to just be at home right now. I would really love to be at home right now. So it's just be careful for what you wish for, because you may just get it. We were so tired. We were exhausted. We'd been on the road for like 3 weeks, 3 weeks, and it was nonstop. And then, working on something I found about working on screen is just I take my hats off to people who work in TV, because the energy that you expend, it looks really easy, but it really isn't.
Right.
Light, camera, action, and you just got to flick it on. You just got to literally, it's like, hi, how are you?
Exactly.
And imagine doing that. You're up and down all day, every day, up and down all day, every day. Like, oh yeah, you guys, you presenters and stuff, you can keep it. Thank you very much.
Right. I'll just make my beautiful cocktails over here.
I'll just be here. I'll be making my cocktails over here and just have fun behind the bars with my people and so on and so forth. But no, it was that was a great, really good experience. So we filmed it here in New York, here in the US. It didn't show in the US. We're currently looking at ways of resurrecting the show and maybe bringing the show back. But it just goes to show you, if you dream it and you persevere and you look for the right resources, and I've always had the attitude of other people do it, so can I.
Right. I love that.
You know what I mean? And I have my children have that attitude as well. Think big, go for it. We will figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Together, and then bring your community on. If it wasn't for my community that I had, we'd never have done the show. If it wasn't for the community that I had, I wouldn't have done the cocktail book. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. So speaking of, we kind of talked about your why the where, but I want to get a little bit more granular in terms of, we know how you kind of came to live in New York and that type of thing, but how did you truly come to be working, playing, and living where you currently are?
Well, the interesting thing is the bar or the hospitality industry is not just a linear path or linear growth. Mm-hmm. There's lots of different things that you can do. Once you put your mind to it, there's so many things that you can do within the industry. One of the things I was doing when I was in London was I partnered with a dear friend, Mark Holmes, and we had a vodka company called You Love Ka.
Oh, okay.
Remember? The vodka brand, with the twisted bottle. So I was working on that with him. I was a shareholder as well and a partner. I was working on that in the UK. Louisa decided she wasn't moving back to the UK, so I approached the board and told them that, I'd be moving to the US. And as the US is the largest spirits destination in the world, especially for vodka at the time, they said, well, let's open an office because we don't want to lose your talent. Let's open the office and let's see what we can do as a business over there, because they drink vodka, right? So I said, yeah, sure, I'll take it. And so I remember coming here and then realizing really quickly that I really had no idea the sheer scale of the role and what I had to do. Again, it's down to the community that you build. I quickly found like-minded people who had small brands, and I used and worked through that network to A, understand the market, B, build relationships, and 3, really propel the brand into a place that was, for such a small brand, it moved really quickly, and we did some great work. But again, community. If it hadn't been for that community, I don't know what I'd have done. But I learned quickly. It was definitely a school of hard knocks. But, one thing I realized in the industry is, it's people love to, buy from people. People love to communicate with people. People like to congregate with people. Yeah. And we are social beings. That's why we all move to cities.
Yes.
If we weren't social, we would all still live very rural and very insular, The majority of people like to be around other people. So
Right. Yeah. Closer.
yeah. So with the vodka, it was great because it was a great tool for me to travel around, meet new people, build
Yeah.
communities. So I used that as a vehicle to build my network around the country, which was great, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And navigating it as a black African Englishman was interesting.
I can imagine.
Because you kind of walk into spaces without the preconceived
Right.
notions and the preconceived ideologies that have been set in place before. You just walk into the room. So you're like, yeah, what? People are like, you shouldn't be doing it this way. You should maybe think about it. You're like, no, I'm here. You know what I mean? Whereas back home, I would be doing mostly exactly the same thing, you know, because I understand the protocols and so on.
Sure.
I didn't have a clue. I just went straight in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting you make that point. Yeah. Because there's this different culture ultimately, but it doesn't necessarily seem.
Yeah. It's a whole different culture. There's a whole different culture. There's, and growing up as an Afro-British man is very different, I think, to growing up as an African American in
Absolutely
America.
Yeah.
And it's just the ways we navigate are different. And it's always funny whenever I'd open my mouth and start speaking, and people are like, "There black people over there?" I'm like, "There's a lot of us.
A lot.
There's a lot of us." And I think it's only now when people are watching shows like Top Boy and they're like, "Oh," and they see Idris, they're like, "Oh man, there's a lot of you guys."
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot. I'm like, "Yep," and we're all taking over Hollywood right now.
Right. Hello. We're coming for you.
We're coming for you. But it's great.
Exactly. This is a good segue into my Glocal speak question. So we want to hear what you hear. So I ask you to share a word, phrase, or saying that is a meaningful part of your local experience and how or why you come to value it as a Glocal speak. So you can pick anywhere where you feel local. Brooklyn, streets of London, Ghana. What's your Glocal speak?
I've actually created my own.
Okay.
And that I always say, get involved, Rob.
Yes.
That is definitely much in my global speak.
Okay.
Get involved, bruv, is really a community, war cry and a community chant for people to get involved. Don't sit around waiting. Life waits for no one. Get involved, build community, get involved, try something new. Get involved is something that I've always said. And it's funny, lots of my friends say it as well now.
It's cool.
And I see it.
Yeah.
And I see brands use it. How to get involved. They just don't put bruv at the end. Bruv is my thing.
Right.
For real.
Right.
I call everyone bruv because bruv is my community. So
sure. Yeah,
that's my local speak. You'll hear it soon in Ghana, Charlie.
I think so. I mean, I love you. I mean, your IG used to be that, right?
Exactly. But now that's my
until you got official.
And that's now my hashtag. So you still see that hashtag. You always end everything with hashtag get involved, bruv.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful sentiment.
And it's something I do as well, just outside of everything, is I try and take a moment every day just to focus on something small. And the thing I do is I look for street art wherever I go, because then it just gives me that moment of admiring something beautiful that in a concrete jungle, people have spent time to create this piece. Yeah. So I take pictures of it everywhere. I was in Colorado this week, for example, took pictures there. Yeah. Here in New York, it's brilliant. The city is a great canvas for artists. So I see pieces all over. It's the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Graffiti has now moved on into a different kind of space now. So for someone like me who appreciates outdoor art and people's expression of themselves, I take that moment every day as much as I can to observe that. And I'll take a picture, and I'll take a picture of it and I snap it and, and I share it with everyone on my page,
Yeah. So speaking of getting involved, bruh.
Getting involved, bro. Yeah.
How did you, so Black Mixcellence, so how did you come to the project? So we've spoken to Tamika and she, she's kind of given how it came about in terms of the Kingston Imperial was kind of in search of. But so tell us how you came to the project. How did that work?
It's interesting. How did I get involved? I mean, it's in that COVID fog, right? It happened,
Yes.
all happened during the lockdown, the COVID lockdown, but it was an interesting time because I was spending a lot of time on Zoom calls, spending a lot of time communicating with other people around the world. And I remember when getting an email from Kingston Imperial saying, "Hey, would you like to get involved in this book that we're writing?" And I just thought, sure, tell me more. And they said, "Oh, it's a book that tells the story of Black bartenders from yesteryear and also focuses on Black bartenders of now." And I just thought, wow, okay, sure, I'd like to do it. Who's behind it? And they said Tamika Hall. And I asked if they could tell me a bit, I found out a little bit more about her, and I just thought, wow, it's interesting that someone who's not necessarily in the industry like that has put this project together. I said, yeah, I'd definitely love to do it. I've done a lot of research in the past at our spirits conference, Tales of the Cocktail in New Orleans. For many years, I was doing celebrations of Black mixologists. The first one I did was for Tom Bullock, who features heavily in Black Mixcellence because he wrote the first cocktail book in 1917. Obviously, what happens at that time is that prohibition's coming. So the book disappears, but it's a brilliant bookend to the last golden era of cocktail culture. And then, there's the next book, I think, was written by Jess B. Harris, who wrote High on the Hog. And then there's a big gap again. And then the next one was my friend Douglas Ankara, who wrote Shaken and Stirred. It was important for me to get involved and really help direct and write this book. And then that was it. Before I did get involved, I got a call from a friend of mine who's a chef, Ariel Contreras Fox. She is the exec chef, I think, for a restaurant group at the moment. But she was bringing out a book as well with Kingston Imperial. And she said, "Oh, there's this project. They're going to reach out to you to be the mixology lead." And, I appreciated her for that. I need to get her a copy of the book. We haven't had a chance to connect yet because she's the busiest woman in showbiz.
Okay.
But getting involved in the book was great. Working with Tamika was fantastic. It allowed us to really create something which was, I think, is a great start for the subject, talking about Black people's contributions to cocktail culture. Everywhere I go, I challenge friends of mine who have a big voice in the industry to write a cocktail book. People like Tiffany Barrier, for example, who's based out of Georgia. I always tell her she's got to write a book because she's got so much to talk about when it comes to the Black space. And so one of the things I appreciate about the book is, cocktails translate as a personal journey and a personal story for a lot of people. And it's great giving them the outlet to show their creative process and power. The book would have been much bigger, but due to COVID restraints, we had to shrink back some of the content. But it's a great start, and I'm looking forward to what we can do from this. And I hope it really inspires other Black and brown bartenders or creatives to write cocktail books.
Yeah. So the Black Mixologist Club, when did that happen? Because I feel like there was a time when bartenders were bartenders and then they became mixologists. So shed some light on the history of the Black Mixologist Club and how mixologist became the term that we now typically assign to bartenders.
Mixologists the word mixology has been around since the 1800s.
Okay.
Bizarrely, it's nothing new. It's just it just got resurrected. I think the first time you see it being brought back into the vocabulary was in the 1980s in England. The Black Mixologist Clubs was in the late 1800s at the Howard Theatre. Funny enough, I was involved heavily with the team behind the Howard Theatre when it was reopening. We did an event in the Howard Theatre when it reopened to celebrate Tom Bullock, who wasn't part of the Black Mixologist Club, but being he was an honorary member. We gave him that, and we gave an award actually to one of his family members for lifetime contributions to the cocktail industry, and celebrating him after he passed. I think Tom Bullock died in the late 60s. So the Black Mixologist Club was a place where Black mixologists could meet and congregate and share their ideas. Prior to that, There were mixologists working all over the DMV area, for example. Tulips were a big thing. There's stories you got to read the book. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to give you all of the tea from the book. So you have to buy the book and read it.
Yes, buy it, folks. Buy it.
Buy the book. There, we write about the stories of the julep and how some Black mixologists actually managed to buy their freedom from slavery out of their craft. They were true mixologists. They created these grand, beautifully garnished cocktails, and not juleps as well, as you know. I have examples of juleps in the book, like the Piedmont cocktail, which are a nod to a julep using Douce cognac. But back then, you know, their craft was, they had to stand out from the crowd. So their attention to detail and their skill and their craft was second to none.
Right.
I always say, as a lot of classic cocktails that you see now, like the julep and so on, they were and old fashions and stuff. I personally believe a lot of those were created on the plantations.
Yeah.
And then they translated and then they moved into the bars. But because Black people weren't allowed to write down their recipes, because if you could read or write during slavery, it was a death sentence. So your claim to creating those cocktails were lost. And so he who writes it down owns, or they who write things down own the narrative, right? So that's why I keep telling everyone, write your story.
Yes.
Let's start documenting our things.
Yes.
So everyone's doing that. I'm trying to get Ian Burrell, who's a dear friend of mine, to write a rum book. I'm like, come on, Bob. He's the rum god. I'm surprised he still hasn't written his book yet, but he'll get there slowly but surely.
Right. Slowly but surely. Well, I mean, that's awesomeness. So thinking in the global context, because we've talked a lot about the US, Europe, more so, UK, US. And so in terms of like the cocktail culture and the growth of the industry, what do you see happening globally, and particularly in Africa, because that's near and dear to my heart and in your heart? Just thinking about, we have our own local spirits. What do you see? What do you see bubbling? What are young people looking at? What's happening there?
Listen, Africa is on fire. It is on fire right now. If you look at all the stats of people going and traveling around Africa, you'll be absolutely amazed. There are studies showing that the largest growth areas around West Africa will occur over the next, I'd say, 50 years. By the turn of this century, 45% of the population will be living around that region, which is amazing. When I've, over the last, I'd say, 15 years, been spending a lot of time with the bar community in Ghana. I ship cocktail equipment and tools and everything to them. I do training classes with them. I felt like a proud dad recently. One of the bars that I'd been working with, they were nominated one of the 50 best bars in the world.
Nice.
But no, it was such a great feeling just seeing that those folks are really
Which bar,
being recognized.
So we can tell people to go there?
Front Back.
Front Back. Oh, Front Back. Yeah.
Front Back has been nominated and is in the 50 best bars in the world, which is amazing.
Yes.
It's an amazing accolade. They've been recognized by Tales of the Cocktail as well as a bar that's really crafting and building cocktail culture in Africa. Around South Africa, the Congo, all around like Nigeria. Nigeria has its own cocktail week, its own cocktail festival now.
Oh, wow.
In October,
okay.
So you should check that out. Last year I had the pleasure of visiting Nairobi. Their cocktail culture is growing all around that south and southeast region. Gin has really paved the way for people to appreciate ingredients from the continent.
Okay.
There's I'm a big fan of Advocacy. I remember my parents always used to frown upon me drinking it, and I'm like, yo, this stuff is good.
This is our drink, right?
And do you know what really annoyed me once? I was leaving the airport. When I was with Louisa, and we were in the village drinking Advocacy. We said, we'll buy some when we get to the airport. Walk to the airport. Nothing. They had Johnny Walker, Grey Goose, Absolute, Bacardi, this, that. I'm like, where's the Advocacy? They said, we don't have that here. And I'm like, wow. There's no way you can leave the Caribbean without buying the local rum.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Why do we not get involved
Elevate, right.
with our own spirit. I don't even think you don't even need to elevate. Just take it from the village and sell it.
Sure. And put it in,
You know what I
yes.
mean? That's how we drink it. But they're now the local spirits, like the sobolos, the hibiscus that you see a lot everywhere. People are buying it. We have our own styles of cocktails, which are what are they? Chaplins.
Oh, yes. Chapman.
Chapman, the Chapman's cocktails.
Yeah.
There's a nod to a Chapman cocktail actually in the book. It's quite funny. And we also across South Africa, people are using great ingredients in all of they have these drinks called Cape aperitifs, which are aperitif.
So it's like a Cape Town kind of thing?
It's a Cape Town thing. Yeah, it's really cool.
Okay.
Local brandies, local agave spirits. I actually used to say that the future is Africa. I did a seminar at Tales a few years ago about, Africa's the future. I'm actually planning to do one this year. Africa's now.
Yes.
And Africa's here. It's now. It's really now. It's exciting. It's dynamic. I'm spending a lot of time communicating and working with a lot of the crews across and a lot of the teams across the continent. I've just started working with this training school in Sierra Leone. They're trying to really build up their cocktail knowledge and their skill set, because what's happening as well, we're getting a lot of people coming in as tourists.
Yes.
And so trying to elevate hospitality, I think will really enable people to earn a great living. And also, you give a person a fishing rod, they can go and fish and feed their family. You give a person a shaker and a spoon, they can go and make tips for their family.
That too.
Same analogy. So my mission is I'm going to spend a lot more time on the continent. I want to help fuse all these communities. They're all working in silos at the moment. I want to try and fuse them together. Yeah. I think that was what I was brought here to do. So I'm going to get involved and do that, bruv.
I think that speaks a lot to mindset, right? And so I'm going to ask you about mindset, your mindset hack. So what is your favorite or an innovative mindset hack? Now, this is one that you practice, one that you know of, or one that you can imagine.
Yeah, mine is, as you know, it's get involved, bruv. That is my whole mindset. It is for me, even when I say it, I feel a sense of empowerment, a sense of achievement, a sense of I can do anything. Getting involved, bruv, always ensures that as long as the intention's right, things can be done. Yeah, because people like in the general schemes of things, people like to help. I find that especially here in the US, in New York in particular. If you have a great idea and you have the passion and the drive, everyone wants to be involved in your success. Yeah. It's true. Just don't mess it up. No, because when you get up there, they say, wow, look, we helped make that happen. Go on. You know what I mean? So, that's my life hack. I also every morning I wake up and I give thanks. Yes. I give thanks, and I give thanks 3 times. Just sit with myself for a minute, and then I get up, tell myself to get involved.
There you go. Right. Get involved, bro. Okay, so the Colin that is not the traveler, I mean, like you said, you don't feel like you work a day in your life. So when you're not on the spirits trail necessarily, who are you? Are you a reader? Are you a watcher? Are you a listener? And what are some of your favorite reads, watches, or listens that you'd like to share?
Reads. I like reading. I enjoy reading. I've always been an avid reader. I don't listen as much podcasts and stuff as a lot of other people do. In my role as the director of multicultural and LGBTQ plus advocacy, I realized that there was no one that was doing it before me. So I read a lot on what other people did before. There's a great book called The Pepsi Challenge, The Real Pepsi Challenge by Stephanie Caparel, who talks about the inspirational story about the breaking the color barrier in American business, because Pepsi was the first company to have a dedicated Black African-American division in America.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Pepsi was. And they sent these HBCU graduates, across the South to grow Pepsi's
Visibility, all that.
footprint and visibility and everything. I also enjoy reading a lot of books about being Black and British, because that's my foundational knowledge. There's an amazing speaker. His name is Akala, Akala.
Yep.
He is an amazing speaker. If you get the opportunity to just YouTube him, he's on Instagram as well. He's amazing. He's a poet. He wrote a book called Natives that I love to use as a reference for anyone. And he's, it's so funny because I bumped into him maybe 3 years ago with my son, Jonah. And Jonah knew who he was. And Jonah's, at the time, Jonah, I think, was 17. And Jonah was like, Dad, that's a color. I said, yeah, I'm glad that you recognize who he is, because he's such a prominent figure in the culture in the UK.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's growing as well over here. There's a great new book called, The Good Immigrant, that I've started reading by Nikesh Shukla.
Okay.
And it tells the story of the different immigrant groups that came or come into the UK over time. And it's brilliant just to see the differences, but then the same experiences that people have, still community, still trying to build a better future. Immigrant or expat communities also one of the things they try and do is they try to build independence. They're more entrepreneurs within immigrant groups than any other groups, I feel. And those are some of the things that I've been reading at the moment. I read a lot of cocktail books, obviously, because that's, I have to.
Those are great. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's lots of food books as well. I love cookbooks. There's the Afro Vegan that I've been reading a lot at the moment, and using some recipes out there. And you would love it as well, being the vegan that you are. I don't know how you managed to live in Ghana being a vegan.
Well, I'm a pesca vegan, so
vegan.
Yes,
now.
I'll eat fish, and then everything else is vegan. So that's the way I can survive. And I don't think that my constitution is happy with just being a vegan. Like I've tried going on stints like that, but I think, everyone determines what works for them.
Yeah. And, there's he wrote another great book that you should get. You should get The Cooking Gene.
The Cooking Gene.
The Cooking Gene, yeah. It's by Michael Tweedy, who I met him 2.5 years ago. I went to a conference that was put on by Ashton Berry. If you don't know who Ashton Berry is as well, follow Ashton Berry. Mm-hmm. She is the collectress on Instagram. She's amazing. And I met him there, and he just tells the story of the foodways, how we ended up getting to where we are now. Even a simple dish like jollof rice.
Yeah.
What's the base? Saffron, tomato, rice. And that went up through the north through with the Moors. The Moors took that into Spain. Yeah. And that's the basis of paella.
Yeah, exactly.
People don't even know that. It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same rice, exactly.
And then they added the seafood and so on to it. It came to New Orleans. What do we have?
Gumbo.
Jambalayas and gumbos and,
Yeah, jambalaya especially. Yeah. Yes, those are great. This is such a rich show notes episode, folks. You're going to have a lot of nice tips from the show notes. So, Colin.
Yes.
We're getting to the end of our conversation. This has been so wonderful. I'm so happy we got to catch up. I know, right? So before we sign off, do you have any last words to share with our audience, and where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram. Mm-hmm. I am Cocktail Colin, at Cocktail Colin. Mm-hmm. Also, you can email me. My email is very simple. It's cocktailcolin@gmail.com. Very easy. Everyone can remember that, I hope. Mm-hmm. And it's 1 L in Colin, not 2. And just in parting thoughts, life's really short. We're here for a moment. And so just get involved, bruv.
Yeah.
If ever you feel that you're dead end, you don't know what to do, get involved, bruv. Build community. Community will help you get through it. And,
true.
Speak to the people around you. Mm-hmm. You'll be surprised at what you find, and just try and be open and as transparent as you can be, and use your voice. A closed mouth, does not get fed. It's an old African proverb.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need something, say it, talk about
Yes.
it, and get involved. Because if you don't, no one can read your mind. But yeah.
Right. Exactly. There you have it, folks. So this has been another episode of the podcast. You can catch us Tuesdays with new episodes at glocalcitizenspod.com or wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. You get the idea. Please do us a favor. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. That's getting involved, folks. Get involved. That's get involved. Get involved, bruh. Tell a friend. All right. Until next time. Bye for now.